Well, it's time for another one of those midweek specials from the EFL Championship, as we've got one rearranged game, but it's a pretty important one, isn't it? Big in the title race and automatic promotion race given recent weeks, and it might still be a big one in a playoff race as well. Of course, we are talking about Tuesday night's game between Southampton and Preston North End. Southampton back in the race for promotion and possibly the title too. With the games they've got coming up, they could still be the most important team in this race yet. Whereas Preston, after disappointment at the weekend, are now just about hanging on in that race for the playoffs. But to do so, this is probably a must-win game. As always, we're going to preview the match and try and get the score prediction right, which is never easy at this stage of a championship season, as the weekend proved. But as always, I'll encourage you to do the same in the comments below. Give me your score prediction for this midweek's match. And if you beat or match my score, you'll get a shout out in the next recap, which will be on Wednesday night as we look ahead to the whole weekend fixture list, a massive one in a championship. And of course, we'll also do the recap from last weekend's fixtures there as well, where there were a few more surprises at the top. And that means going into this game, Southampton versus Preston, the Saints are very much back in a promotion race, and it almost looked like it wasn't going to happen towards the end of Saturday's match because Southampton beat Watford by 3-2 thanks to a 99th minute winner by Flynn Downs. A massive moment given what happened with the top three, who all failed to win again, and with Southampton yet to go away to Leicester and Leeds, they could well have things in their own hands if they have a good week here. It looked like it was going to be a very comfortable afternoon at first, ahead in 1 minute, 20 minutes in, 2 up and looking comfortable, plain sailing. But then they let Watford back into the match, and to be honest, from 2-1, it was very nervy, and Watford, they had their chances. They made it a pretty even game. Of course, Southampton, even at their worst, normally dominate the ball. But defensively, they looked edgy. Of course, playing out those 5-yard passes, you just start to take a split second longer. You just doubt yourself. And of course, that's what leads to mistakes when you're being pressed, which, to be fair, Tom Cleverley's Watford have been a bit more aggressive since he's taken interim charge. But this is about Southampton, and you've got to give them one thing. They showed bottle and they showed attacking intent at the end, which, of course, at 2-2 they had to, and maybe Watford took a little step back. But when none of the top three are winning, you can see all 4 of them are so nervy. But that makes this result so big. It puts Southampton up to 81 points. They are now 6 points behind Leeds, 7 behind Leicester and 8 behind Ipswich. They have 1 game in hand on Leicester, 2 on Leeds and Ipswich. And of course, as we mentioned, play 2nd and 3rd place before the end of the year. How big could that goal be from Flynn Downs, especially when the top 3 just aren't winning at the minute? It does mean also that if they win this game, they can make it incredibly nervy for them going into the weekend. I mean, you look at the weekend's fixtures, and to be fair, Leicester are playing first on Saturday lunchtime, Southampton in the 3 p.m. kickoffs. Of course, Leeds not playing till Monday night. It is going to make it interesting because, of course, Ipswich's game against Coventry is off because they're in the FA Cup semi-final. And that means that potentially they could end up being pegged back and down in 3rd place, and with Southampton breathing down their neck by the time the next play. So it really does add to the dynamic of this weekend. Added to that, you've got Leicester Southampton next Tuesday. What effect could that have if Leicester don't beat West Brom and Southampton beat Cardiff and Preston this week? It could be chaotic for sure. But for now, let's look at their opponents, Preston, because they were in a playoff race and at times have done really well this year. They've got a negative goal difference, but we mentioned they started like a house on fire. They had a terrible run where they picked up about 13 points in 18 games. And now they've started to hit form again. But that form was hit against Norwich City, who, I've got to say, were probably the main aggressors against Preston. I don't think either side's created anything that was clear-cut particularly. But Norwich just about edged it in terms of possession, in terms of intent, territory and shots as well. They were certainly a lot more comfortable on the ball, and it has been my criticism of Preston all season. Ryan Lowe's done a good job given the circumstances, given the sides and the budgets he's competing against. He's done remarkably well to get the side competing there. They're not always the best to watch. They're not always in the highest scoring games. I mean, 3 of the last 4 they've not scored in. But then also, they've kept 3 clean sheets and only let in 3 goals in that time. So they don't often let in many. They don't often get battered. And that's going to make it quite difficult for Southampton because Preston have got to get a result if they want any chance of the playoffs. They're 8 points off with a game in hand and 4 games to go. They've obviously still got West Brom to play as well, who are 9 points ahead of them. If they could get close and make it a bit squeaky, you never know. But it does start to look like with that Norwich win that they're pulling away as well. So maybe the top 6 is close to being decided unless Hull can do something special. They look good at the weekend. But for Preston, it's going to be an interesting dynamic in this game because they're going to sit behind the ball. We know how Preston's set up. But my question is, what happens if Southampton go 1-0 up? And that's almost the thing I'm most worried about in this game. They're going to be hard to break down, Preston, but there is a point where they have to go for it. This isn't a game where Preston can sit in and say, as they might have when this game was originally scheduled, they might have played for a 0-0 and said, you know what, we'll take that. It's a good result and we'll push elsewhere. Preston are in a position where if they don't win this game, their season's over. So they have got to go for it at some point. We know before that Southampton will have 70% of the ball. I don't expect Preston to come out all guns blazing. But there will be a point when they push. And I just wonder if we're going to get sort of a frantic finish to this game after maybe a pretty dull hour. If I was going to put my main prediction in, it would be, don't worry about watching the first half, but the second half is going to be chaos. You look at the players that are available, as Magic popped up with a hat-trick against Huddersfield. Will Keane's been brilliant this season. Jakobsen's popped up as always with goals. I'm not sure. I think for an hour, we're going to see the game we expect to see. The question comes whether Southampton can break them down before that point, because they have struggled at times at home against those defences that sit deep, that try and be disciplined and that do it well. And they've had a few frustrating draws as a result of that. But if it is 1-0 Southampton or even 0-0 with 20 or 30 to go, Preston will have to come out. And I think we get a bit of a barnstorming finish, because initially I was looking at this game before the weekend and thinking, oh, it'd probably be a boring 1-0, which I always seem to predict with Preston. And to be fair, I'm normally not far off. But I do think this game's going to have more goals, and I think it's going to have late drama. Because if Southampton, say, get pegged back by Preston, they're going to have to go gun-ho, chuck on a third, a fourth striker, try and find a way. And that could leave them open to the counter as well. So I really do think, and I know it's an old cliche, but this game in particular probably hinges on who scores first, because they're going to force the other team out. If it's Southampton who score first, Preston will wait a while. If it's Preston, then Southampton just have to go with it, because they've secured the playoffs. There's nothing for them to lose. They're going to be third or fourth, and they're going to play one of West Brom, Norwich, or the sides just below that if they break in. If they want a chance at promotion and even the title still, then for me, they just have to go with it. So I'm going to say that Southampton will be aggressive. They might get pegged back once, and I think it will be a nervy night. But I'm going to go for the Saints to win this game, and I'm going to go just about by 2-1. But I think, as I said earlier, it will be late goals that we see perhaps that will produce the drama in this game. And given what we saw from both sides at the weekend, that wouldn't be a surprise, would it? So that's my prediction for Tuesday night's crucial fixture in the EFL Championship. Southampton to pit Preston by 2-1 and end Preston's playoff chances while boosting Southampton's automatic promotion ones. Then they've got a huge run in. Can they do it? With Leeds and Leicester faltering, can they beat both of them? And can they stay in the mix for the automatic spots? We'll find out all those answers over the next couple of weeks. But for now, give me your prediction down in the comments below. Do you agree or disagree with my outcome? I mean, it's so hard to predict, isn't it? The top sides have been all over the shop in recent weeks. But to be fair, Southampton have won their last 2. And at home, they are making a habit of nicking victories pretty narrowly. As always, a massive thank you for watching this. If you enjoyed it, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to stay up to date with everything during the run-in. We've got matchday predictions from the Premier League and Championship to the end of the regular season. Then we'll be doing all of the EFL and the National League playoffs. So make sure you come and join us. We'll have some special events as well. Non-league finals date not far away. It's going to be a very hectic month before inevitably a number of manager specials during the summer. So for now, thank you very much for watching. Find all the other key links and playlists in the eye above. And we'll be back here on Wednesday afternoon with our weekend championship predictions. But will it be Southampton or Preston fans that will be happy when we get to that one? We'll see you next time to find out.